Okay, let's do intros one more time. I apologize, we had to restart. So I'm here with Jolly and Barbara Blackburn, creators and publishers of Knights at the Dinner Table, workers on HackMaster and other Kenzerco products, longtime gamers, uh,
Yeah.
and very active on Facebook. You can find them there. So we have a series of questions we've kind of talked about beforehand that I've pulled from the community. And so, before we start, is there anything you all want to just share that you've been thinking about? You all are pretty active on Facebook, like I mentioned. You all share quite a bit. So, but if there's anything you've thought of sharing lately, or that maybe you've been talking with Dave or Brian about?
Um, I'm not a fan. We're ramping up for GaryCon in a few weeks, so
Yeah.
we've been kind of focusing on that lately.
And for those who don't know, Kenzerco and Jolly and Barbara are very active on the Midwest cons, GaryCon and Gen Con in particular. What other cons do you all tend to go to most years?
Um, Lately, since the pandemic, mostly Gen Con and GaryCon.
Are you
Uh,
planning to ramp that back up a bit?
Possibly. I had some health problems last couple of years that just kept me from committing, to a convention ahead of time. So I might next year probably start taking more guest appearances. It just hasn't happened yet.
Are you excited looking to get back out there too, Barb?
Yeah. I am. I am. Yes. But I also get nervous because there's a lot to do.
Right. Um, how much would you say work it takes for you all to manage to like kind of pack up, prepare, get to, and then come back home and kind of unpack and de-stress from a con?
Yeah, that's the problem with doing a con. There's prep time before, and then there's the con travel time, then you know prep time or recovering afterwards. So we usually lose about 10 days, probably when we go to convention. So it really cuts into our monthly schedule if we do any of them. Um, if they're spread out, we can absorb it more. But summers are really bad historically. We used to do Origins, VidCon, and what's the other one? Pentacon. They're all kind of crammed up in you know, in 3 or 4 months. That was always a rough time. So
Used to do game hole too.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
You do game hole.
yeah. Is that your mic rattling? Is that just on my end?
I think that's just you, Johnny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I always love seeing your pictures and you all sharing stuff from the cons for decades now.
A lot of fun.
Yeah,
They are fun.
it looks it. So I mean, obviously, you all keep a pretty busy schedule, and some people have noted, myself included, I know the answer to this because we've talked about this. But for those who are watching and who watch us later, you all do particularly only seem to go to cons in your region, and you want to share a bit kind of like why that is, and maybe what it would take if you were to go to further cons.
Yeah, it usually just comes down to room and board covered and travel. Just it gets pretty expensive to go to the West Coast and East Coast. Um, we're more than glad to go to them. Before the pandemic, we were supposed to go to a con in Florida and one in Virginia. And of course, the pandemic hit, so we had to cancel both of those. But we're more than willing to travel. Actually, we're kind of eager to hit the coast because we do so many cons in the Midwest. It's just nice to rub elbows with gamers in different circles. In the Midwest, we tend to see a lot of the same people at most of the cons we go to.
Not that we don't like those people.
Yeah,
But you need new
we
faces.
went to a convention. Yeah, we went to a convention in Texas about 5 years ago. It was like the
Yeah,
furthest west we'd been in quite a while, and
that was
it was just
fun.
amazing. It was just amazing how many people we hadn't seen at conventions before. It was just entirely different, know, group of people that they were kind of excited to see us because we never make it out there. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well, little shameless plug here is I've been trying for years to get Jolly and Barb invited to Rose City Comic Con in Portland, Oregon. So if y'all want to see them on the West Coast, send a bunch of emails to Rose City Comic Con. Tell them to invite them, especially now that they've passed their big milestone, which we're gonna get into right away here. Kind of start big. And that, you know, you've just passed 300. You hit 301, passing Cerberus, and
yeah, we pick up 302. We pick up 302 from the printer on Monday, actually. So.
Well, having just read 301, I loved it a lot.
Good.
But like I said, it's that major milestone of the longest running serialized unrenumbered single creator issue comic book, correct? Did I get that right? It's
kind
of a complicated record.
Yeah, that's what I'm told. That's what I'm told. It's really convoluted with all the criteria for the different records. So we just go with it. People tell us, we're like, okay, cool.
Awesome, yeah. And so, you know, obviously that's a long road, and congratulations on such an achievement. I'm sure I'm just the 10,000th person to tell you that.
Thanks.
But, you know, of course, the people who submitted our questions, you know, that's a long road. I gotta imagine it was a very hard road. And so, kind of, if you want to share some of the ups and downs along the way, especially like what was the most difficult thing, and what was the most rewarding, like maybe single events or routine processes.
And I was just thinking about. I was looking at your questions, and I remember when we were doing issue 50, we decided to make it a double issue, so it was double the amount of normal strips. And I remember I was working on them at the time, and we've been doing HackMaster 4th edition for about a year or so, working on that. So, you know, the D team, my partners, were kind of pulled away working on various projects on HackMaster. And so I was kind of left alone on KODT at the time. And I was doing a double issue, and I was under a lot of stress. And I remember that being a really tough issue because in my mind, I was thinking, we're not going to be able to do this as a monthly. Figured maybe another year after that, maybe it would just slowly, we'd wind down on that and commit to other product lines. And I think back on that, and I was like, wow, I had no idea how far they were going to keep going. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I've been reading since the teens, like 14, 16, something like that, in the late 90s.
Oh, wow, good.
And I do recall it feels like the schedule got much more regular compared to some of those early years.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was with my other company, AG, it was just the issues came out whenever. There was no set schedule. It was usually my ex-partner just saying, we got to do another one. You've got to do one. And I didn't really want to. So eventually I would give in and pull another one together. And so it wasn't until I left and joined up with Kinzer that, okay, we're going to do this monthly. And then they've been pretty regular since then. I don't think we've ever had a break in schedule. And since 96.
Is he telling the truth there, Barb?
No yeah, mostly. I mean, sometimes we run late. I mean, there's things that happen in life that get in the way. You know, when our daughter passed away, that took us a while to get back, into publishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were periods where you would fall a month behind and spend 3 months catching back up, and then kind of like a slinky effect. That's what I meant about the conventions. Summer conventions, we always fall behind a month in the fall and catch back up by spring, that kind of thing.
Is it like when you're the person on the tail end of a road march, how it like stretches out and you got to catch up?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so in terms of your monthly process, you both do a lot of work on the comic. Barb, you have a ton of bylines and even more than a few, I think more than a couple few editorial letters from the other team. And so what have you found to be the most rewarding part of producing Knights of the Dinner Table?
Go ahead, Barb.
I like, I like working with the freelancers. They're great. And
Let me interrupt for just a second.
just,
I'm sorry, Barb. Because I should have. What are the parts you tend to work on in the comic book, primarily?
I work on what we call the back half, which is the magazine part. I get our regular freelancer, to turn in their columns in a certain time frame and lay those out. And then I do art assignments. I write up the denizens or the NPCs, and the trap and the magic items. I send snippets of that to the Frame Brothers so they can do art for those. And I write the Brian's picks for the most part.
And then Jolly, obviously you do the strips, and then you primarily call the letters, or Barb, do you do that?
No, Jolly does that.
Usually pull those together, and then a lot of the feature articles I'll lay out the ticket off Barb, because between issues there's kind of a recovery period where the strips I'm always working all-nighters and kind of wasted, wiped out. I kind of use getting into the next issue and blocking out, the templates for the next issue, and maybe laying out a major article, something like that. Kind of a nice way to wind down. You don't have to really use a lot of thinking. It's just tedious, straightforward work, and that's kind of a nice change.
Like overlapping the two issues, kind of.
Yeah. It kind of helps me change gears and get my sanity back before having to create.
I don't know.
Creating on demand is the hard part for me. Meeting a deadline. You've got so many pages to fill with strips, and then you got the stress of I'm not going to make it. And
then... Dave ever cracked the whip on you?
Yeah, that was the thing about issue 50. I don't know if he minds me telling the story. He might not even remember, but where he was working at Motorola at the time and working on HackMaster, and I was stressing out on 50. Like, I think I was sleeping in my office and pulling all-nighters for like 2 or 3 weeks. He came in one day, like on a break from Motorola, and he comes in. He just says, "Hey, how's issue 50 coming?" And I was like, "Well, it's going to be like probably another week or two." And he's like, "Man, wait, why does it take so long? You should just be able to knock that out in like a week, right?" And I had like a huge meltdown. I was just like kind of detached from my body, and I was screaming at him like, "What do you mean?" It was like it was like the worst thing to say to a guy when he's really fatigued. And then like other people in the office, we had like 15 employees at the time, and a couple of them were coming to the office door, and I could see him leaning in like, "Man, what's happening to Jolly in there?" So I never melt down like that. It was kind of shocked people. And then to Dave's credit, I got done. And he's just super calm. He didn't even react. He's just like, "Oh, okay. I just wanted to know." And he walked out. He never mentioned it again. It's like that's Dave Kinzer in a nutshell. He's just super calm.
Yeah.
He just wanted to know. It was funny. I was thinking about that today because issue 50 was an issue for me that was it was hard for me to see past it, like how we're going to keep that up month to month,
Well, I noticed you didn't do the double issue for the 300. You mentioned that, and I imagine looking back on that, and I think issue 100 was a double issue also, wasn't it?
100 was a double issue, and I think we were coming up on 150. I think Steve and Johansson came in I think I was at the office at the time. He came in, he's like, "What do you think about doing a double issue?" And I just kind of looked at him like, "Seriously? You wanted it?" And he's like, "Yeah, okay." He's a bad idea. So and that was the last one we did. That was a double issue. Was 100. It's just a lot of work, You're literally doubling up in 4 weeks. Your normal workload. then having to come out of that and still do your next issue. So kind of learned our lesson. If we had a larger staff and more writers, I think it would be more doable, but it's not something I look forward to anyway.
So let's take it back then, because I wanted to kind of clarify a little bit more your process before we went back and talked about kind of what you find the most rewarding of, because we talked about your challenges a lot. What makes your heart swell when you're working on the process, or what is just that moment when you feel the best about doing this work?
For me, it's still when we pick the issues up off the press and opening the box and getting that first issue. That's it for me. It's the print issue. Like the PDFs are nice and the digital, but I don't know, for 30 years, that's always been it for me. Is be like maybe not so enthused about working on the next issue. Sometime that first week, you'll get that issue, the previous issue off the press. And once you have that in your hand, it's like a surge of energy, and you feel kind of rejuvenated to work on the next one. And it's always been that way. So, not sure what it is for Barb. So.
How about
well, I'm like, oh gosh, we got to do another one. No. I see when he finally finds kind of the groove with the strips. He's stressing over him for a long time, and then finally gets to that place where he's like, oh yeah, it just, when it finally clicks, everything, the way he wants it to. It's nice to see him kind of, I don't know, get enthusiastic and stop suffering so much.
Yeah, I go from hating the strips that I'm working on, just thinking like I need to start over from scratch, do them, and then at some point it shifts. Now I never know when it's going to happen, but I go out and work one night, and suddenly the little tweak here or there, and I'm like, okay, this is the right direction. And I think she sees that when I come in the morning. She never knows which Jolly it's going to be, the one that's stressed out, or the one that's happy.
Yeah.
That's part of our process. I'll work nights. It's easier for me to work nights on writing strips or blocking out strips, and then I bring them in the morning, and then I read them to her. Put them on the big screen TV so she can see them. Then we talk about them. Like, I'll read it to her, and then we'll discuss them. She thinks it's a good idea or not a good idea. Or I have a suggestion. Something about reading them out loud always helps the process as well.
Yep.
Someone else. It doesn't work if I'm doing it for myself. But I imagine we got more than a couple of creative types or writers on the server who will see this on YouTube and be like, oh yeah, I recognize that. Speaking of which, so you've been doing this for 3 decades. Have you along the way ever studied any writing or story, story crafting kind of books or lessons or anything like that, or has it kind of all just been feel your own way through and find what works? We started our first magazine, Shadus. I think I just turned 30, and Barb turned 30 a month or so after me. But we both wanted to always be writers. When we met in high school, that's what we talked about and dreamed about. I think we were turning 30. I was like, man, it's not happening. We're not going to be writers. Our dreams slipping away. So we started the magazine to kind of force ourselves. Hey, at least we're writing, and we've got a deadline we're imposing on ourselves. What I was doing, where this was going, it had something to do with your question about having studied writing, or
Yeah. So it was just to write fiction, basically, and so I never planned on doing a comic book for what I'm doing now. So it has been kind of learning by the seat of my pants. And remember, I started working for Dragon magazine when Knights appeared in there. The editor, Dave Gross, sent me this book, and it was called Understanding Comics. You probably heard of it. It's a real famous book. It was about storyboarding and the whole art of some guy wrote a book about the art of doing comic books and storytelling. I remember thinking he's trying to tell me something like, I need help or I'm not good. But it was just a nice gesture. He was just saying, hey, you should read this. And so I think I read that. That helped quite a bit. It's mainly just picking up things over the years. So no formal training or reading.
I guess. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, I have a bachelor's in English, and I went into the Army as a journalist, so and I go to writers' conferences when I can. I mean, I really love that stuff.
You pick up things from like the D team. I remember Steve Johansson. I was writing a strip once, and it was like someone was saying something like, I found 5 gold pieces or something, and Steve was like, you need to make it like 3.75 gold pieces or something. And I was like, why? And he's like, uneven numbers are funnier, So it's just, so I learned that from him. I'm like, now there's always an odd number. If I mention a number in a strip, it'll just be it's got to be something a little extra on it, not just a round number.
I don't think I've noticed that, so I'll have to keep an eye out for that. I want to say, you two have shared your, having started Shadis and also the story of how you met many times in writing and like the interview you just recently did. And I didn't know that you had both aspired to be writers even back in high school. So that's kind of a neat little
that's how we met.
Thing to there.
Well, we were in algebra class, but we were talking about stuff like John Steinbeck and
sharing books and stuff. I remember when we were dating, we were reading each other's our little short stories we had written. Now every teen has their journal, a big stack of stories they've written, or poems. We're constantly reading our stuff to each other, dreaming of being writers. So
maybe you should find those and compile them. People will probably read them.
I still have some huge binders of short stories, sci-fi, kinds of stuff. But they're written by a 15 to 17-year-old kid. I think I have some stories I wrote when I was 12 in there too. So
I still think they're good.
Yeah. See, next time you need filler, Barb, just pull one out of his binder and slip it in there.
I wouldn't want to put anything of my poems out there, though. Oh boy, were they gushy and romantic and really, the teenage girl stuff.
So, pull it back to the comic a little bit. And I think this is going to go probably a little bit more in your wheelhouse, Barb. It's about, like, is there a particular type of content, articles, jokes, things submitted by users, or things that you write or ideas you come up with that you find you either don't have enough content to include it, or there's just not enough room for it and you just wish you could put more of in the comic?
I always have trouble getting enough review material for Brian's picks. I mean, that's something because you go through 3 a month, and it's not like I can afford to go buy 3 games a month. And it's harder when when you don't have the conventions around that you can go squid review product. That's a hard one. It's hard to come up with new traps, like ways to hurt PCs, and thwart their dreams of treasure. But I do somehow come up with it. I don't know how. I kind of think, what would I hate to run into?
Well, so
I don't know. Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to switch back to Jolly, because Jolly, you do often talk about and there is a thing on the Kenserco page for submitting strip ideas. What are you generally looking for when it comes to that? Are you looking for full layouts, somebody actually like draw out their own, or just kind of an overview?
What works best are just kernels of ideas, or just kind of a basic setup gag or whatever. Problem with the way the comics evolved over the years, so many story arcs or continuing stories. It's hard to work in. If someone wrote a script where characters are playing Traveler or something, for example, it's harder to put that in as a standalone unless I happen to have some space. An issue, but what I like to do is take the storyline someone has and weave it into the continuing story arcs if I can. So I guess you're asking me what I'm looking for. Standalone strips are fine if they're like 2 to 3 pages. And those make good filler. But if it's anything longer than that, it's just you have to understand it may be months or years before I find a spot to weave that in to the ongoing tapestry or whatever. That makes sense? Or?
Yeah, I think it does to me. Hopefully to our readers.
One other thing. Oh.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
One other thing. I go through a lot of Tales from the Table every month, and I can just I need to keep that flow coming. And I like to have more than one person, the same people all the time. I need, like to hear from more people their tales from the table.
Well, I have a Tales from the Table channel on the Discord server here, so you can always come and check that occasionally and see what you can take from there.
And are all those available?
We'll add a disclaimer, sharing here.
Okay.
Thanks. And that way people can start sharing there, especially if they know you might come and rate it for stories. That'll definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Put some
all right. Sounds good.
So, not looking to be macabre, but we mentioned that you set the record for single creator, but nobody can keep doing anything forever. And so one of our members did ask if you've given thoughts to how you will eventually pass on the torch, hand off. Do you think you would ever hand off the comic to someone else? Or you can have my comic when you pry it from my cold dead fingers.
Yeah, I haven't really seriously thought about it. I am getting older, and I guess I had some health scares last year or two, where I had some surgery. I had to take a break from writing for a few weeks, and of course that makes you think, like, man, what if something happens and I can't do this anymore? But I haven't seriously thought about it. I've always assumed that I'll be doing it until I drop or I'm forced to give it up. Then it would come up, and then I think, would anyone really want to take it over or step into that kind of situation? So it's a good question. I just haven't put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah, sounded like you were leaning to cold dead fingers, though. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that kid that asked you that? Oh.
Yeah, I was at this convention before the pandemic, and it's one of the first cons I had where they gave me a moderator to take questions from the audience. And there was this kid sitting with his dad. I think he's probably like 10 or 11 years old. But, asked a question. He's like, what happens when you die? Who's going to do charity? He looked so concerned, like he was looking at me and thinking, oh my God, he's old. He could kill over any day now. And he's really a huge fan of the comic, but it made me laugh. This question, but
precociousness. It's never not.
But yeah, no, I haven't thought about it. If my partners what they would do, like if I pulled over, like, hey, would they want to let someone else take it over or reboot it, whatever. I guess I wouldn't care since I wouldn't be around. But
See, I think you should take turns. Let Barb do some storylines. That way she's ready to take over for you.
Oh,
She could.
I did.
Yeah, she could.
I did do. You think I could? I don't know.
If anyone I know, Barb's the most versed in the voices of the characters, which I've had a lot of people try to write strips and they don't quite have the voices down. What the characters would say or do in any given situation. And Barb's got that. I mean, we were working on 150 and there was the I Believe strip with the lava. Anyway,
yeah.
It's a strip that someone else wrote the basic joke of the strip, but it was for the Knights. And when I was working on that issue, I had too many Knight strips. I wanted to get Patty's perps in the magazine. I asked Barb to redo the strip with Patty as the group. She did such a great job on that one. It's really fun. I think it's probably a lot of people consider that their favorite, I think.
I do 1-2 punches now and then.
She also, when Barb set with that strip, Barb set the tone for Patty being just a sweet little school teacher, but a prankster, having a mean streak in her. She set that whole path because the way she handled that strip. I thought, oh man, Patty's really evil. So I mean, she got that edge to her nobody knows about. So I had a lot of fun with that over the years.
Yeah, I like that about her.
Was there another one you were going to mention, or did Jolly just kind of end up telling the story you were about to tell there?
No, I kind of, I don't ever think of myself as contributing as much as he sees that I do.
Yeah, she does a lot. She probably should get a lot more. Years I snuck her on this comics as Barbara +1 as on the D team. It was kind of a joke, but it's because she was honestly doing a lot of work on the strips that no one really saw. Just in the capacity of suggesting ideas or a board, something to bounce off ideas. It's really valuable to have.
Yeah, I also wrote that one strip about the go to the D20.
The what?
It was when Bob wrote a poem about his dice.
Didn't you write the one about the Newt Heather ring about talking to plants? That was a big part.
Yeah. I don't know, but I love it. I get if I
think
did.
You were the inspiration for that. So.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorites. I didn't know I did that.
It was also the inspiration for putting animals off the text list and throwing them in the traps in the dungeon.
Yes, I did that in a game. I mean,
I was buying pigs because they were so cheap on the price list.
On the price list.
And she would take them in and throw them in where she thought a 10-foot pit might be. She was I
was tired of throwing in them.
And we had another player who was a cleric. He was just horrified that she was doing that to a poor
I was a paladin.
Anyway.
Lawful good doesn't mean lawful nice, right?
Well, no, I mean, I didn't think of them as real. You know what I mean? Because they were on the price list, I mean, I just thought of them. I did not think I was throwing a real pig in a room. I was just trying to outsmart the GM. But
speaking of some of your favorite issues or issues you've worked on, you've put out a number of compilations in the past. I think I saw you're currently wrapping up one for the Black Hands. And any other ones that you're looking at putting out soon?
I've got there's a third volume to the Callopunk series that needs to be finished. Then the Black Hands on the dossier. Both of them are near completed but not completed. I just need to wrap them up. So those are the next two.
So 2 more Black Hands coming up.
Oh, it's one graphic novel.
Oh, okay.
The Callopunk is the Knights.
Oh, right. I'm sorry.
Primarily the Knights.
Got them backwards. My own personal thing, I'm waiting to see the Pone Brian Express storyline as a
Oh, really? Yeah.
as a
That'd
compilation.
be
That would be a good one.
would be the problem with that one. I want to do it. And we probably will, but it's finding where that story actually begins and where it actually ends.
Because it has to go
It's a really
backstory.
long. It's
Because
a long thing.
there were so many events that set things in motion over I don't know several years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the swords. I
Yeah.
mean,
yeah.
No, I love that whole bit, of course. I imagine is that kind of one of the you notice kind of where like reader engagement rises or falls when you do big storylines or big events like that?
It's a two-edged sword. I think my biggest fear is like when I was doing the Sarah strip, she was running the sci-fi adventure. For the guys.
Yep.
Space. It was like, yeah. I think I ran for 2 years, almost 3 years. It's like after a while, you're thinking, oh my God. You're like, if someone picked up an issue right now, and this story has been going on for 13 issues, nothing but this arc, pretty much. I worry about that. I used to, every time that happens, I worry about it. I'm like, wow, this arc's going too long. I need to wrap it up. Which I did with that strip. I had her to a stopping point, and I thought, okay, I got to pause that story and then back to the Knights and do some other stuff. And of course, I never got back to her picking up that campaign again, which is still on the table that's going to happen. I just haven't done it yet. So,
and it doesn't even seem long ago.
I know it doesn't.
No, it really doesn't.
At least 3.5 years, because I remember Steve Johansson, before he passed, he really loved that storyline.
Well, he wasn't alone, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it too.
Just surprised me. Steve rarely commented on the month to month. He would just drop off the issues for him to process the subscriptions, and never really talked about the comic that much. And then during that storyline, he would always like, "Do you know where it's going next? Like, what's happening? Like, what's this mean?" And I thought, "Wow, that's really cool. He's really into it." It's a good memory.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't mind, I was gonna kind of move over to some Aces and Eights and HackMaster, or some more Kezuko side. And so obviously, when it comes to putting out books and products for the RPGs, you do play a part in that.
Right.
And Barb, I don't know how much you do on that side, if any. But where do you tend to fit in that process, so that when our readers are thinking about, or like our listeners, I mean your readers, our listeners are thinking about approaching you at cons or anything like that, like so they know kind of what niche you fill in that design and production process.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think when we were doing HackMaster 4E, I did like the first pass at the his handbook, because there were so many books in development at the same time. Then the engineers, Dave, Brian, and Steve, took it and did their thing, kind of brought it home and added all their rule tweaks and stuff to it, which is really cool. I think that's how I always work best, is like coming up with ideas. Like I came up with the the yield factors for the Hacklopedia and the combat rows. I've kind of always kind of been my favorite thing to do, is take the rules that have already been written or semi-written, and then just in details like dog mauling rules or that kind of thing. The engineers, Dave and Steve, and when he was with us, and Brian, they're the nuts and bolts guys that really get into under the hood, and they just love the crunch and just getting into the deep of it. I'm more of the world builder type. The details guy that.
Apologies for interrupting. No, I was just saying, but how about for like the current, for what we all call 5th edition?
Right.
And out of curiosity, do you all refer to it that way amongst each other too, colloquially?
Fifth edition?
Yeah.
Yep, 5e.
Yeah.
Just call it HackMaster. I call it New Edition usually more than 5e because the 5e, I mean, the edition numbers were kind of a joke
Right.
with 4e. But it doesn't matter. I just, like 5e doesn't appear in any
Right.
titles or covers. So.
Yeah. But yeah, so for current edition, for new Hackmaster, so where do you fit in there? Like, what's the majority of the work you do?
Currently, I do most of the layout and play in all the playtest games, of course. But I haven't been doing much active writing other than adventures and stuff because KODT just takes so much of our time. Especially when
I work with the artist on the Hackpedia piece.
Right.
Anthony Parker.
Yeah, Anthony. Yeah,
he's so good.
Yeah, we took on a lot of Steve's job responsibilities after he passed, so it don't have a lot of bandwidth that we'd like to have currently to help Dave and Brian on the hard writing on the 5th edition, the newer books that are coming out. But, we have input and we play in all the games, and we have a Slack account which ideas get tossed around there all day, throughout the week. Dave's doing the heavy lifting right now, most of that stuff.
So it seems.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Barb.
We mostly, Jolly and I, one of our major, I guess, Hackmaster projects was Frandor's Keep. That we did a lot of that writing.
Yeah, if it's world building stuff or setting material, that's the type of stuff I prefer to work on, where I'm happy and
So when people want to know stuff about Calamari, you're who they should be sending emails to?
Well, yeah, we've got a short stack of Calamari stuff we've been laying out. I think we put out 3 books last year. It's just a matter of getting to them. We have looking for time to lay it out and get it posted.
Yeah, it's been my understanding. I mean, obviously, losing Steve as a friend and coworker was big for you all, and it's my understanding that he kind of was at the time of his passing, like the full-time person out of the 5 of you. Brian, Dave, Steve, and the 2 of you. Is that a fair assessment?
Steve and I were the 2 full-time.
Well, I meant like on the Hackmaster side. I'm sorry.
Hackmaster. Yeah, it felt this. Yeah, that's kind of where things divided. I handled ODT. I did a lot of the layout. We kind of divided the layout. But Steve was the guy that sat there and did the tedious, like on the Hacklopedia too. Just we would write up monsters and write up descriptions, give to him. He would do the hard work of just sitting there staring at the screen and doing the game balance and crunching numbers, and which he's very good at, as an engineer. So we lost that. It was good to have someone like that enjoyed doing that so much.
Yeah.
He was good at it. So.
Some people have a lot of talk is on like the revised edition that's going to get its Kickstarter later. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you on any details.
Okay.
Because I know it'll be, we'll announce it when we're ready, I assume. But Aces and Eights hasn't seemed to get much attention. Is that kind of something you all have, like you did the revised edition and are kind of letting thing, or?
Aces and Eights is one of those lines because love the game, obviously. So we did the second printing edition, but because of the bandwidth issue again, it's if we wanted to do more Aces and Eights material, we'd have to rely on freelancers, either to write an adventure or write a source book. So that's not something we can do in house. It's like say, hey, we're going to do Shattered Frontier source book. So I wish we could. In a perfect world, I would love to do something like that, but it would pretty much fall to a freelancer to approach us and say, "Hey, I'd like to do this book on the Continental Railroad or whatever, and how it affects Shattered Frontier, that kind of thing," or just submit an adventure.
It seems to be a common theme between you two and Dave and Brian of, if you want to see the game, write it up and send it in.
Yeah, we love freelancers.
Yeah.
We love.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for us, HackMaster is our flagship product on that side, and that's where everybody's love and attention is most of the time.
Yeah, understandable.
So we love Aces and Eights.
Sorry. Huh? Well, I said I only asked you specifically about Aces and Eights because I've always gotten the impression that that it was kind of a little bit more your milieu, or that like you seem to have a stronger affinity for it, or express one.
I think we all loved it. I definitely love it a lot, and I like running it, and I like the campaign we had, and so on the other side of the coin is the marketing aspect. It's just Westerns aren't it's never going to be a bread and butter product. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a niche.
It's just you kind of you do the core books and you do your adventures, and there's a surge of sales and interest, and it always drops off like really quickly. That's historically, I think that's been the way it's been for different genres in this industry. So you just have to live with it, but it's not something that we can throw a lot of time and money into. To keep putting more and more books that aren't going to sell at levels that are going to pay the bills. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's the sad part of it. But I definitely love it. I would love to see Aces and Eights get more attention. I do, and we sell the books constantly, the ones we have. But, ventures, and it's anything other than the core books and the few source books we have. They just don't move as well as core stuff.
Oh, sorry, Bart. Yeah.
Nothing. I just see my videos frozen. I was just seeing if I was still on there.
You have it. It's been stop and go a bit, like slow, but it's still nice to be able to see y'all and have the face with the voice. So okay. Going back, Jolly, you mentioned about that you love to do setting work. We actually have a specific question about. Someone mentioned you shared your articles on the northern regions of Tulane, such as Shenandoah. I say that wrong. Yeah. Some of the things in Callum are a little wild.
Yeah.
But are you going to do more focus work on that area? Are you planning to some of that stuff you mentioned you're putting together or working on? Is it other regions? And like, where do you all like to set your games too? When your in-house game and whatnot.
Currently, Dave's been running the in-house game for quite a while. My campaigns, it was in the Dobo area, so that's why I was writing a lot of articles in that area. In a perfect world, I would like to do a source book of Calamar that really detail that area. I love that part of the world because it's away from everything else, but it's on the edge of the map. Dave hates that I keep wanting to go off the edge of the map, the north, but I want to know what's up there and how the wine gets the rest of Calamar and all that stuff. I just feel like it's right, prime material for to be explored and build things. So, but eventually, I'd like to pull all those articles I did and source material, add it to other stuff that I have, and kind of do a little source book for that area. Just haven't had time make that happen yet. I think we lost Barb. There she is.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of stuff I like to write. The stuff you were talking about that was in KRDT, like on the Grevens and Greytar's travel logs. That's where my heart's at mostly.
How about you, Barb? What's your favorite area?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, just
okay. Favorite area of what? I missed some.
Oh, we were talking about Tallinn, Calamar.
Oh, yes. Well, I like the island that we went to. That I don't know the name of it.
Was it the one
I
with
like-
adventure?
Jolly ran an adventure on some island with pirates.
It was a maroon island campaign that we ran for about 3 years.
I do like Shaitanadobio. I would rather say Chi-Town. That's easier. I like the Deji. I like the Deji area. I like horses. I like the Oki regions.
Are you the one we have to thank for a lot of the barbarians and the tribal stuff?
No, not really. I like them, but I haven't written any of that. That's just the guys. And then there was a guy that wrote Nicholas Greensleeves. He wrote Jorak.
Yeah.
We had the Rustlers and Townsfolk book for Aces and Eights, but Barb, we were talking about you putting together, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the deadly trappings, all things magic. Have you thought about pulling all those together, rewriting the ones that aren't Hackmaster focused, maybe to be more so, and putting those out as compilations? Or?
That'd be fun. I mean, I did a lot of the Rustlers in the Aces and Eights.
She did almost all of them.
Yeah, I would like to put them together. That'd be fine.
You write great characters, so that was a specific question somebody had. So I think a lot of us would probably.
It'd be a good product.
I love doing them.
Was it 3 or 4 per issue? It'd probably have to be done in volumes, like volume 1, volume 2, or something.
Do one that's the good, one that's the bad, and one that's the ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got away from that, but because it is kind of hard, but it is also fun. I kind of like to tie the people together in some way.
Yeah, I know they do seem to have a theme between when there's more than one in there.
Yeah, I don't know why. Sometimes I'll just make them unrelated, but most of the time I think I have them some connection.
Are you two good to continue on for just a little bit longer, or?
Sure.
Because we had a few questions about like your personal gaming experiences and likes and dislikes.
Okay.
I know fame rubs were a little bit of a joke from the comic. They made their way into both editions of KODT. Do you use fame rubs? And if so, whose? Because, to most of us, you two are the famous ones. We would be fame rubbing your names. So,
no, I can't think. I don't remember ever
Sally,
doing
are you there?
Yeah. You hear me?
I don't know if he's...
I hear both of you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't recall ever doing
I would
seriously.
do Larry Elmore. I mean, Margaret Weiss,
Authors, big authors.
Any of the Gygaxes.
And we did have a user just ask not too long ago, how much for a fame rub signature from you, and maybe you can put them up on your Etsy store.
Oh well, gee.
If they're serious,
I don't know. It's still weird thinking that anybody would want to pay for something like that.
If someone
after all these years,
they just send a die with return postage. We do it for free.
I don't know how much to charge for that. It seems like I should do it for free.
For the signature, I think they mean for the signature.
Oh no, nothing. That wouldn't cost anything.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
Some return postage if they want to mail it to you.
Sure.
Or to Kenzerco, rather. Well, get ready for some mail,
Sure.
I imagine.
Sure. Okay. Sounds fun.
Yeah, just put a return postage on it will be no problem.
I don't know how lucky I am.
I don't think we've heard too many bad character death stories about you over the years. So.
Oh gosh, I've had them.
Well, you know,
I usually die at GaryCon. I've had some spectacular character deaths at GaryCon that were on film. So.
Well, somebody did kind of want to know what were the most memorable character moments and/or deaths that you have each experienced, either as a player or as a GM, or both. Whatever you want to share.
I haven't heard Jolly in a while.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Oh, yeah. I can.
Oh, okay. I can't hear him.
You can hear me?
Oh yeah, Jolly. Why don't you go first? I imagine you two might be having some bandwidth issues, so. But I'm hearing both of you fine, just so you know.
Yeah, I had a feeling Barb couldn't hear me before, but best character, most memorable character death,
or just big moment too.
Oh, okay. I think I've probably told this story before. Okay, we were playing in the games loft here with the T team, and one of our interns, and I think it was someone else here, but it was on my island adventure actually, and there was a huge boss monster pirate on the beach with all of his men. The party they were getting their asses kicked, and it really did look like it was going to be a TPK. Like half the party was down. This boss guy was just downing people left and right. And so half the party that were still up, they just like, we got to get out of here. They all started running down the beach. And there was one guy, he was, I think the intern, John. He rolled a crit, and he broke the guy's hip. So, and he was the leader, of course. So he breaks the guy's hip and drops him and then kills him. And I did some morale checks, and so a lot of his men just fled, like, hey, the boss is down, let's get out of here. And so meanwhile, the guys are down the beach running away, and the two people that stayed behind to fight were victorious because they killed the boss guy. And you remember that, Barb?
Were you able to hear
Still
that
there?
story, Barb?
I did not hear it.
He was telling a story about breaking a hip and breaking the boss guy's hip, and all of his pirates ran away. So
backstory on this. It was Steve's character.
No, I don't remember.
So Steve's
I remember when.
Sorry, you're talking over each
I
other
remember.
for a second here. Go ahead, Barb.
Oh, sorry. No, I remember when he played the halfling and got eaten by piranhas.
Halfling eaten.
And only half of them came out of the water. So I always laugh that he's a quarterling now.
Quarterling. Did you catch that, Johnny?
Yeah.
Yeah. Quarterling.
Oh, so on that
joke a lot of times.
Yeah. I personally am most embarrassed about my magic user that died at GaryCon and took out most everybody else with her.
Please tell me it was a spell failure, a big giant spell failure.
It was.
Yes.
We kind of. We were at GaryCon and we were all going into the like a inn or something like that. That was supposed to. I don't remember why we were going there, but we were all in the main area, and one of the characters heard something down the stairs, and he wanted to go, and he was going to go by himself. One of the players, so I was like, oh, I can't let him go by himself, so I went down there with him, which is a big mistake. Feeling sorry for another player doing something stupid, but anyway, they opened the storage room door, and there were zombies inside, and I guess I took the playing your character thing too literally. I was like, my character's never seen zombies before. She just freaked out and threw a fireball. Which into a storage room kind of didn't work so well. Because I'm not very good at geometry. So all the flames just shot back up the stairs and set the whole building on fire. Um, and there was a guy on the roof. One of the players was on the roof because there were other zombies coming, I guess, and he was trying to do the sparkling light thing to blind them, but it also blinded him. And he's on the roof, and the building's now on fire, and he can't see.
Oh.
So I really felt bad about that.
It almost
I
sounds
pretty
like,
much doomed everybody.
were you worried about ending up with rope burns from that? Is that hanging upside down from the ceiling?
I escaped and went down to the bar in Caricon with this guy from Italy, Luca. So I don't know. I guess they survived somehow.
Well, I appreciate you sharing an embarrassing character story.
That's the most memorable.
Our screw-ups could be just as fun as our successes, right?
Yes. Yes. I'm mostly known for doing stuff like that. No.
Jolly, we still got there. Hey, Jolly. So, you were kind of about to launch into one too. That was a great story from Barb. I don't know if you can top that one though.
Oh, yeah, the story I was talking about on the beach was the backstory was Steve Johansson had been picking on Brian's character the entire evening. Steve was like several levels higher than him, and he was just was he playing a growl or anyway he was being a real jerk to Brian's character, and so Steve's character was one of them that got topped on the beach by the boss monster. So the battle ended. Players are gathering around again to assess what had happened, and Steve's character is bleeding out on the beach, and so Brian asked him like, "How many hit points do you have?" And Steve's like, he's like, -1 or whatever, and Brian's like, "I kill him." So Brian killed Steve's character as he was bleeding out just to get revenge for picking on his character all evening. To me, as a GM, I just thought that was hilarious. Brian waited for a prime moment to get his revenge on Steve. But Steve and Dave Kinzer, they were both in the rule book, doing everything they could to save Steve's character because they weren't sure if he was technically dead yet or if what they could do to stop the bleeding. And so Brian killed him during that process.
Nice. Oh, that's pretty hilarious. A little bit of in-party just stabby stab is.
Oh yeah.
I think some of the funniest stories from my gaming time come from that.
Yes.
And also some of the ones that make me shake my head and I would never share. So one person on our server who I've played with a bit has described HackMaster as the best RPG that nobody knows about. Some of us do our best. We do demos and stuff, and I know you all do a lot at cons. What would you say is the best response you've ever had when you've taught somebody either completely new to RPGs or just somebody new to HackMaster, when you've really sat and showed them the rules in the game?
I remember it was at this con called Aces.
Is Jolly going? I can't hear him.
Sorry, can you? Go ahead, Jolly.
Okay.
It was an anime con where we were running demos for. They gave us a room for some reason at this anime con to run HackMaster demos. But most of the attendees weren't gamers, or unless they just happened to also be gamers at the con. They would find our room and kind of wonder what it was about. We would teach them how to roll up characters and then play. I had a group of Boy Scouts. I think it was 5 or 6 kids. They were probably 10 to 12. And I ran for them. And the adventure I ran had these orcs in these caverns, and they had trained dogs. They had surgically altered the dogs. They couldn't bark. So these dogs would run out of the darkness at full speed. silently and attack these kids. And they were they were like literally terrified of these dogs and like screaming and having a big reaction every time these dogs attacked. For me, that was just great. They were just so into it, they weren't worried about the rules or the dice to roll. They were living and breathing their characters and afraid for them. And, I kind of miss that with older gamers. A lot of them don't get into that level of their character in the game.
Immersion, not that level of immersion.
Yeah.
I can feel that. So, Barb, I don't know if you could hear him. Jolly was telling us about the Anime Con and terrifying children with scary barkless dogs.
I figured he was talking about that because that was a really great time.
How about you, though? About just sharing HackMaster,
Yeah, I was thinking about that same convention. As we'd never been to an anime convention before, and it was surprised. We were surprised at how much fun they were. I mean, as far as how much they loved HackMaster, and a lot of them had not role played before. So it was so fun, and I did a lot of character creation sessions. Another girl, Rebecca Green, was there, and she had a great table of running character creation, and that was kind of my thing. I helped a lot of people roll up characters, and that really got them very interested in the game. And then I did some of that at Gen Con, and I remember in particular one woman named April. She liked it so much that that her and her husband bought all the games, and now they're big ambassadors for HackMaster. They bought the books, and now he GMs all over the place.
Nice. That's kind of the dream with the demo, right? Like that is the.
Yes, because I've never GM'd. So I've do the character generation sessions for people.
Just not.
Yeah, I cannot even think like a GM. I tried to help Jolly co-GM at a Kenzer convention we had, just a little one at our offices, and I couldn't keep myself from trying to help the players out. I was like, "Oh no, don't do that!"
No, yeah, no, I get it.
I'm just a player at heart, and I'm on their side all the time.
Stand behind Jolly and give signals, like.
Well, she inspired.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of got inspired to write a strip based on that when Dave wanted to help EA help him GM at the convention, and he had to end up wearing a sack
the
sack over his head. Yeah, yep. That's me.
I think Dave has ended up in that thing 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I relate. I relate to that.
That's fantastic. We kind of. I think I'm going to leave it there for some. We had a few other little minor questions to talk about.
Okay.
And y'all have been going a long time, and so I really appreciate this. Like I said, I know you don't do these very often, hardly at all. So.
I'm trying to be better about it.
Kind of great, big deal. I hope you will stay on the server, the Discord server, and pop in occasionally.
Okay.
It stays decently active, especially since the forums kind of broke.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We're kind of trying to rebuild some of the info that was lost, also.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, and so, but this will also be on YouTube. I have a channel called HackGlass.
Okay.
I thought it'd be a fun little pun. So But again, thank you. This has been Jolly and Barbara Blackburn, creators and writers. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I had one question for me, and I am gonna maybe stir a little bit of a pot. So at Gen Con, I noticed Dave Kenzer. For those you know, we keep saying Dave. Very like decisively insisted on referring to KODT as a magazine, not as a comic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I caught a few sideways glances every time I called it a comic book. Is that kind of like your, you know, do you all just refer to it a different way? Is that like kind of a sticking point for him? Or do you care either way?
I don't think it's ever, I don't recall it ever coming up.
I don't care.
It might be that he was at the booth if someone wasn't aware.
I always have trouble figuring out what to call it.
It could have just been a case he wanted people to be aware.
Comic book? It's a comic book / magazine.
Right. It's a little both. Little column A, little column B. Fun hybrid.
Like a Reese cup.
A Reese's cup of comic books. There you go. All right. Well, yeah. I just wanted to throw that in there. That was my own little personal question. Well, again, thank you. And like I said, this has been Jolly and Barbara Blackburn, creators of KODT, that recently reached 301 issues, a huge milestone in the comic book industry for this type of publication. And, you know, keep gaming, keep doing what you do. We all love it. And we'll keep seeing you around.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.